They called me a fraud, but nothing stung like the moment my own father leaned toward the judge and said, loud enough for the courtroom to hear, "She dishonored our family name." His voice didn't crack, mine did, somewhere deep inside where he couldn't see it. I had stood in silence before war zones, before betrayal, before men who wanted me gone. But hearing him say it, that was the first time I felt truly erased. The gavel echoed, cameras flashed, and as the whispers rose around me, I realized the truth wasn't on trial. I was. My name is Elspeth Carrington, and this is how the people who raised me tried to destroy the only thing I had left: my honor. Your Honor, she faked her entire service record. The words sliced through the air like cold metal. The courtroom fell silent, except for the hum of fluorescent lights above. I could feel every pair of eyes on me. Judges, attorneys, family, each one waiting to see if I'd flinch. Across the aisle, my father, Colonel Gregory Carrington, sat stiff and expressionless, his jaw clenched tight as though the sound of my breathing offended him. My brother Miles sat beside him, a faint smirk curving his lips, the kind that always said he knew the ending before anyone else did. Behind them, distant relatives leaned forward, whispering just loud enough to be cruel. Their attorney, Simon Darden, strutted to the center of the room with the confidence of a man who already smelled victory. He spread out a stack of papers like evidence in a crime scene. "She was forced to resign under investigation," he announced, voice swelling with mock outrage. "A disgrace to the Navy." I didn't move, didn't blink. My lawyer, Annette Yarrow, rose to object, but before she could speak, Judge Harold Ellsworth lifted a single hand. His gaze, sharp, gray, and knowing, cut across the room. "Enough," he said. "I want the original file, directly from the Department of Defense, unredacted." The gavel came down once, and the sound cracked like thunder. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Gregory's fingers tightened on the armrest until his knuckles turned white. Miles leaned closer to him and whispered something that looked an awful lot like triumph. But I caught the judge's eyes again. There was something in them, a flicker of recognition. He'd seen that name before. Glass Dome. Outside, rain streaked the courthouse windows. Annette caught up to me in the hallway, her voice low. "You think he knows?" I watched the reflection of gray clouds sliding down the glass and whispered, "If he does, the truth just found its first witness." I didn't cry when the lawyer read the will, but I'll never forget the sound of my father's hand slamming against the mahogany table, or the crash of glass, when he realized the heir wasn't him. It had been 4 months before the trial. The Carrington family gathered in a paneled office in Alexandria, a room that smelled of old money and pride. My grandfather, Sterling Carrington, once the Chief Justice of Virginia's Supreme Court, was gone. Everyone assumed his estate, including the prestigious Carrington Foundation, would pass to his son, Gregory. It was always meant to. The lawyer cleared his throat and began to read, his voice trembling slightly. "For her integrity and silent service, all holdings are to be transferred to Elspeth Carrington." The room froze. Even the ticking clock seemed to hesitate. My father shot up, his face turning crimson. "She manipulated him. She's been lying about that Navy nonsense for years." Miles leaned forward, voice slick with venom. "Don't worry, Dad. I'll fix this." I said nothing. I only stared at the framed portrait of my grandfather hanging behind the lawyer, his eyes kind, steady, forever reminding me of what he once told me. The law doesn't need to shout to be heard. When the lawyer handed over the will, I saw a handwritten line scrawled beneath my name. "To the one who served truth, even in silence." Only I understood it. Only he had ever known what I'd truly done. As I turned to leave, Miles brushed past and whispered, "You won't keep this. We'll make sure of it." I met his grin with calm. "You might want to check who you're fighting against." He smirked, too sure of himself to see the storm he'd just awakened. 8 years earlier, I had left Virginia without a word. My father didn't hug me goodbye. He just said, "Don't bring shame back to this family." I grew up in a house ruled by order and appearances. Every dinner was a lesson in obedience. Every conversation a test of control. My father believed discipline was love, and silence was strength. So I learned both well. When I joined the Navy, he didn't object, but his approval came wrapped in condescension. "You'll never survive without a man's name protecting you." He was wrong. I did survive, just not in the way he'd ever understand. Years later, I was recruited into the Office of Naval Intelligence, assigned to a covert cyber counterintelligence mission called Operation Glass Dome. Our task: stop an international attack aimed at multiple U.S. embassies across Europe. During that operation, a senior officer, Earl Barrington, leaked classified data. His mistake cost a man his life. To protect the mission, someone had to take the fall. I signed the report myself, resigned under investigation. They called it a voluntary discharge. Barrington kept his rank, and my father, his old comrade, stayed silent, helping to bury the truth in the name of family honor. He didn't just let it happen. He made it happen. My disgrace was his currency for reputation. The day I signed that report, a general shook my hand and said, "History will forget you, but those you saved won't." He was right. History forgot. My family made sure of it. Now, staring at the news of the lawsuit on my laptop screen, I felt the old wound split open again. "If they want truth in court," I whispered, "they'll have it." The cursor blinked like a heartbeat in the dark. The war they wanted was about to begin. They said I forged my service record, but the real forgery began 8 years ago, in my father's office. The story broke on a local morning broadcast. My picture filled the screen. "Fake Navy officer manipulates elderly judge." The anchor's voice was smooth, practiced, lethal. At the Carrington dining table, my father smirked while sipping coffee. Miles recorded a short clip on his phone, his voice dripping with righteousness. "Justice for Grandpa. The truth will come out." They had hired McHale and Sutton, the kind of law firm that didn't win in court. They won in headlines. Within days, my name became poison. News outlets recycled the same photo of me in uniform, every caption twisting the knife. Friends stopped returning calls. Neighbors avoided eye contact at the grocery store. Annette begged me to issue a statement, to fight back publicly. I refused. "They want noise," I told her. "I'll give them silence. It'll echo louder." But silence didn't shield me. That night, an anonymous email arrived in my inbox. "Meet me at the Roastery Cafe, Arlington." I found something they forgot to delete. Tara Mendez was waiting for me, older now, tired eyes that had seen too many secrets. She slid a military phone across the table. Its cracked screen glowed faintly with the ONI insignia. "They wiped the reports, but they forgot your signature key. You ordered the exfil. You saved 12 diplomats. L." I stared at the digital signature. Mine. Indisputable. Tara warned, "If you use this, it's a federal felony. You'll expose classified intel." I met her gaze. Then maybe truth deserves to be a crime. By the time I reached my car, another message waited in my inbox. "That phone is government property. One move, and you'll be court-martialed post-retirement." It was signed, E.B. Earl Barrington, the ghost still hiding behind my name. Back home, I erased everything on the device except the identification code. Then I drafted my motion to the court. Motion for subpoena, Department of Defense, original file, classified glass dome. When I sealed the envelope marked top secret, I smiled to myself. They wanted a war? They just got one, in my language. I once believed war happened far from home. Then I discovered my enemy wore the same uniform I did. I called Eli Ward, my old contact at the Pentagon. His voice hushed over the encrypted line. "There's an unedited record of Glass Dome," he said, "locked under DNI authorization. Someone tampered with it. The request came from Earl Barrington." My pulse steadied. "Under whose approval?" A pause. A sigh. Your father's signature is on the chain. In another office across town, Gregory Carrington watched the news coverage of the lawsuit. If we lose this, he told Miles, it's not just her who's ruined, it's me. He wasn't lying. My humiliation had always been his shield. Eli confirmed what I already suspected. My father hadn't just known about the cover-up, he'd signed it. Barrington had traded the truth for his silence, and Gregory had traded me for prestige. Annette and I spent the night at her office under the buzz of fluorescent lights. We weren't building a defense. We were laying a trap. We don't fight them, I said. We make them prove me right. We filed a motion demanding the Department of Defense submit the unredacted Glass Dome file directly to the court, for the judge's eyes only. A move so precise, the Pentagon had no legal choice but to comply. When my father heard, he called in fury. You're playing with fire, Elspeth. You'll burn this family down. I answered softly. It was already on fire. I'm just showing the flames. That night, Barrington called him. If that file's unsealed, we both go down. Handle your daughter. My father's voice cracked on the reply. She's not my daughter anymore. The line went dead. So did any part of me that still cared. Before dawn, I sent an internal memo to the Department of Justice. For judges' eyes only, case Sagar 44229, Carrington v. Carrington, stamped across the front, confidential, Pentagon approved. Somewhere in that same hour, Tam Fawn Ellsworth opened the sealed packet on his desk. His eyes froze at a line written years ago. Operation Glass Dome, authorized by Commander E. Carrington. His hands trembled slightly. He remembered. At the exact same moment, miles away, my father dropped a photograph of us, two figures in uniform, into the fire. The edges curled. The image darkened. From now on, there was no family. Only the truth. I once commanded a team that would never leave a comrade behind. But my own family left me the moment I stopped being convenient. Annette told me we needed a witness, someone from my Navy years. I found Senior Chief Nora Vasquez, the only one who'd seen what I truly did. We met by the Norfolk docks, wind cold off the bay. You took the fall so 12 people could go home, she said. I'll stand for that. Her voice trembled. You know this could still be classified? If silence was duty then, I said. Truth is duty now. That night, Miles came to her with an envelope full of cash. Say she lied? You'll never have to work again. She refused. He left, snarling. Dad said if the truth gets out, we all burn. She sent me the recording. I played it once, the tremor in his voice echoing in my office. I didn't flinch. Annette wanted to file it immediately. This will end the case, she said. Not yet. I told her. They need exposure, not escape. Before dawn, I texted Nora. Tomorrow, testify, just tell the truth. Across town, my father called Barrington. She's bringing witnesses. Then we bring something bigger, the press. The war wasn't over. It was only gathering strength. Some battles aren't won by bullets. They're won when the enemy walks straight into your silence. The courtroom was packed when Nora testified. She led from the front, she said. Every one of us came home. Darden smirked, holding up a forged record. Resigned under investigation, dishonorable. I stood. If that's my record, I request the truth to speak for itself. Motion to declassify Section 7, Glass Dome Directive. Judge Ellsworth hesitated, then nodded. The Pentagon had 48 hours. News broke. Court requests Pentagon files. Carrington case erupts. That night, Barrington called. You think the Navy will save you? I wrote those reports. Ghosts haunt the guilty, I said, ending the call. An email arrived moments later. Department of Defense. File received, top secret level 5. I whispered, and now, the trap is closed. 2 days later, Ellsworth opened the file. His face changed at the words. Operation Glass Dome. Reviewed by Lutty, Cole, Harold Ellsworth, Jag. He looked at me, stunned. My father smiled, unaware the storm had already broken. My father believed honor was something you could frame, polish, and parade. The judge proved it was something far quieter and far stronger. The Fairfax courtroom overflowed that morning, cameras flashing like lightning. "Pentagon file arrives sealed," someone whispered. I walked in steady, eyes forward. Across the aisle, my father sat beside Miles, both men confident I'd already lost. Their lawyer, Darden, rose. "Your Honor, this is clear evidence she deceived everyone, even her own family." Judge Ellsworth didn't respond. He broke the seal on the folder marked "Top Secret," for judges' eyes only. Pages turned. Silence thickened. When he finally spoke, the air shifted. "Commander Carrington," he said slowly. "Operation Glass Dome. I reviewed this mission when I was JAG. You saved 12 diplomats that day." Every sound vanished. Then, in one deliberate motion, he stood and raised his hand in a formal salute. "On behalf of those who lived because of you, I salute you." My father's face drained of color. "That's impossible. She was—" "No, Colonel!" Ellsworth cut him off. "She was protecting you." The gavel struck. Case dismissed, with prejudice. Outside, microphones waited. I said only, "Truth doesn't shout. It stands." The courtroom gave me justice. What came after gave me peace. Within hours, every headline in the country screamed the same words. Judge salutes defendant. Navy confirms heroic operation. The truth had finally broken through. The Department of Defense launched an internal investigation, and for once, the paper trail worked in my favor. The original files revealed what I had always known. Earl Barrington had falsified data, and the signature that authorized it belonged to my father. Gregory Carrington was stripped of his advisory position. Barrington was suspended indefinitely. Reporters flooded my doorstep, begging for a statement, but I gave them none. "I didn't fight for headlines," I told Annette. "I fought for truth." Days later, my father appeared at my office unannounced, older than I'd ever seen him. In his hand was a yellowed envelope. "He wrote this for you," he said quietly. "I never gave it." Inside was a single line in my grandfather's handwriting. "Honor isn't loud, it's patient." I looked at him. "Do you finally understand what that means?" He lowered his head, eyes wet. I spoke softly. "I forgave you long ago, but not for you, for me." He wept, but I didn't look back. As he left, he paused before the memorial wall of Carrington Foundation, his fingers brushing the engraved words. Glass Dome Unit, 12 rescued. Below it read, "For those who never sought credit." From the balcony above, I watched him in silence. Justice had done its part. The rest was forgiveness and distance. Some people inherit wealth. I inherited silence, and I learned to turn it into purpose. A year passed. The Carrington Foundation had become more than just my grandfather's legacy. It had become redemption in motion. We funded housing and therapy for female veterans, fought to clear the names of those wrongfully accused, and supported families of agents who never came home. Nora Vasquez now served as executive director, leading a program we called Valor in Silence. Eli Ward partnered with DARPA to design cyber protection systems for veterans whose classified records had been buried, just like mine once were. I stayed behind the scenes, far from cameras or speeches. On my desk sat the Navy Cross, a sealed envelope, and my grandfather's photograph, his eyes steady, as if still watching over the cause he'd inspired. One morning, a letter arrived in handwriting I recognized instantly. "I thought honor was visible. You proved it's something to be kept." There was no signature, only a final line. "I'm proud of you, even if I'm not worthy to say it." I folded it gently and placed it beside the others. That evening, I stepped out onto the balcony overlooking Arlington, the flags rippling under the fading sun. The light caught my face. Quiet, resolute. They called me a fraud, I whispered. But truth doesn't beg to be believed. It just waits to be seen. The wind swept through the open office, flipping open my grandfather's old letter once more. The ink shimmered in the last light of day. Honor isn't loud, it's patient. Then the frame faded to white, 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 frame faded to white.